We have some more updates from the NHL free agent frenzy. We have a signing in Ottawa with a veteran defenseman. We also have some signings around the league, including Pittsburgh, Dallas, Anaheim, Buffalo, and a big rumor around Vladimir Tarasenko going to Carolina, but that's not yet confirmed. We have news from the waiver wire, as well as a big update from Hockey Canada. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about, mostly some signings with a few other news items here as well. First up, news from the NHL waiver wire. Detroit Red Wings forward Filip Zadina, the former high pick from the 2018 draft, has cleared waivers. Yesterday we talked about the fact that he was placed on waivers. The Red Wings trying to give him an opportunity to go to another team, get a fresh start after not being able to accommodate a trade. Apparently back around the draft or beforehand. He and his representative did request a trade from Detroit, and Yzerman says he tried, shopped him around, and could not materialize anything that worked for the team. So they decided to try this to see if a team would take him. He does have 2 years left remaining on his contract at $1.8 million. And as I mentioned yesterday, I know there was a lot of people on social media saying, our team should grab this player. He's free, he's young, he might be a project, but it's well worth it since we don't have to give up any assets. They're like, yeah, but you get one more year after this one. So this year next at $1.8 million. That's a big commitment. And it was a salary cap being so flat the last couple of years. Certainly teams have been tight up against it. I know a lot of teams that might only have, $5 to $7 million in space, but they still have some RFAs to sign, or they still have a couple of roster spots to fill. And this is not really the money best spent. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really... it doesn't surprise me in the least that he did not clear. Now, like I said before, though, now that he has cleared, maybe that helps with the trade, because obviously clearing waivers, he could go directly to somebody's AHL roster. Now, in the offseason, that's a little bit different. Obviously, at this point, teams have to go through training camp and go through all that. Waivers are only good for so many days, so certainly it's not really going to impact that way. But like during the season, for example, it might impact... the ability for another team to say, well, we'd take him if we knew we could get him to the minors without having him be claimed again, and then he'd be a call option. We could send him kind of go back up and down, but we're in the offseason right now, and things like that don't really matter too much. So obviously, I don't know what's going to happen with Zadina. He's probably going to have to remain in Detroit, go to training camp, and see if he can't show the Red Wings or other teams why he should be picked up and why he should get more opportunity. And we'll see what happens next. But for now, Zadina remains in Detroit, and the contract's a bit of an hindrance. I'm kind of surprised the contract he got, to be honest. I thought it was a little bit rich, considering he hadn't really done a lot as of yet. Like, I think it was like a 27-point season was his career high. So we'll see what happens with him. Maybe something gets worked out. Detroit has to retain salary to move him. I don't know how much him and his rep are going to push for a trade still, so we'll see where that goes. Some signings around the league today. The big one... not that that's big, but the biggest one of the day so far, the Ottawa Senators have announced that they've signed veteran defenseman Travis Hamonic. He remains with the organization on a 2-year deal valued at $1.1 million per season. They also give a no-move clause. I see a lot of Sens fans on social media confused, upset about the no-move clause. They're like, yeah, I know you don't want to be giving these out, and I'm a big person. Like, I personally don't think these should be given out to the level as they are. But when you get a veteran player who's been in the league for a long time, he's there near the end of his career, he's not signing in order to turn around and just be traded and uproot his family. So it's kind of later stages of the careers near the end when you get these 1 or 2 year deals with a no move. It's just a respect thing for all they've done for the NHL and for the team specifically. They've been there a long time. They don't want to have to sign short term just to be uprooted. So I get it. It doesn't mean he couldn't be traded. This means they'd have to talk to him if it's not working out, and if they saw an opportunity to do that. Now with a no-move clause as well, that also prevents them from burying him in the minors. They can put him on waivers if it doesn't work and they have issues, but they can't demote him to the minors. Personally, I think Hamonic can still add a lot of value to Ottawa, especially where he can play a smaller role now. A lot of the time he's been there, he's been expected to play top 4 minutes. Now that they've added Jacob Chikrin, they have Zub, they have Sanderson, they have Shabbat, he doesn't need to do that anymore. He can be a third-pair defenseman, doesn't even have to play every game. He can be like a 6'7" guy. I think you're like your top 4 that I just named. You get Eric Bradstrom's like your number 5. And then I think you're going to see Hamonic probably rotate with a guy like Jacob Bernard Docker around, or Tyler Clevin. they are going to be your guys battling for your last couple of spots. Now, between Clevin and Bernard Docker, they can still put in a little bit of time in the minors. And because especially Clevin probably might be the strongest of the bunch, to be honest, but at the same time, he wouldn't need waivers. We'll see what happens, but they have some kids that can rotate with him, and he can be a good role model. He's good on a PK, not afraid to block shots, just a good character guy, good leader in the room, and a lot of those things it's hard to put a price tag on. So I personally don't mind this signing for the Sens to have another veteran in there, considering how many younger defensemen they have on their roster. The Pittsburgh Penguins have signed Will Butcher. Butcher gets a 1-year, 2-way deal, $775. So he'll most likely be in the minors, but be an option for a third pair. The Dallas Stars have signed Derek Pouliot, same thing, 1-year, 2-way, $775. The Hurricanes have signed a player to an entry-level contract, so this one's a little bit different. And he's an older prospect, so he gets a 1-year ELC, and it's valued at $775 as well. It's an undrafted left shot defenseman, Griffin Mendel, who gets his contract in place. He did play with the organization in the American Hockey League last year for the Chicago Wolves, but he only had an AHL-only deal, so he was not eligible for call-up. So this ELC allows a two-way action between the NHL and the NHL. So we'll see what happens here with him, but obviously he's kind of moving along, progressing from AHL only to two-way deal. The Ducks have also signed defenseman Robert Hang. He gets a 1-year deal, $775 as well. And the Buffalo Sabres have brought back defenseman Cale Clegg. He also gets a 1-year, 2-way deal, $775, and it's lucrative on the AHL side. I believe it was over $300K at that level. And there's a big signing rumor about Vladimir Tarasenko. Last night on Twitter, there was a breakdown saying it was going to be between Ottawa and Carolina. They were the two teams that were pushing the hardest to sign the Russian player, and that a decision was likely coming soon. Not long after, we saw a couple of reporters say they expected him to sign with Carolina. And I know a lot of outlets have kind of run with that news, but to today, still, nothing has been confirmed. So I don't know if that's a case of maybe they have a handshake agreement and they just haven't registered it with the league yet. I don't know about it. If he is going to Carolina, we have no idea what the terms are, how much term, how much money. We don't know. He is really good friends with Dmitry Orlov. So from that perspective, I can see him and the two of them wanting to play together. The Carolina Hurricanes have been needing extra scoring. So between adding Bunting and Tarasenko, if that's the case, that would be a big help. They really need a setter, though, in my opinion, more than a winger. But I don't know how that's going to all work out. But we're waiting for confirmation on Tarasenko if he is indeed going to Carolina. Like I said, it's been the last few days. It's been down to Carolina and Ottawa, and just haven't really been able to confirm it. Even though some reporters heard Carolina, it's not confirmed yet. So we'll have to wait and see. So I'm not saying that's official. That's just a rumored signing. And former NHLer Rudy Balcers, who was mostly known for his time in San Jose and Ottawa, also spent some time, I believe, in Florida and Tampa as well. He's leaving the NHL and signing over in the Swiss League. Former Boston Bruins assistant coach John Gruden is heading back to the American Hockey League, and he's going to be the new head coach for the American Hockey League's Toronto Marlies and the Leafs organization. So that's a good hire there. And we finally got some good positive news out of Hockey Canada. They have named themselves a new CEO. Of course, we know last year the major Hockey Canada scandal. They went through several of them, actually, which led to the CEO that resigned. The whole board of directors resigned, and they're starting fresh. They have themselves a new CEO. They've been doing a lot of work to get this organization's reputation changed and get a lot of processes changed to make sure that the things that we saw come up hopefully never happen again. But the new CEO is Catherine Henderson. Catherine Henderson was the long-serving CEO, or former CEO, I guess, of Curling Canada. She was there since 2016 with a great reputation. So that's a really good hire. And also because of the changes that the Hockey Canada has made, including the new CEO, which will be obviously running the whole organization here. Bauer, who is a major sponsor and partner of Hockey Canada, also announced today that they're reinstating their partnership with Hockey Canada, putting out a statement saying that it's critical that we ensure hockey is safe, accessible, inclusive, and welcoming for all children and families. I couldn't agree more, and that's certainly a big part of Hockey Canada's mission, is to make sure that that remains the case and that we don't have any more scandals like we've had here in the past. But of all those things that they said it needs to be, a lot of it we can do by having the right people in leadership positions and having the right mindset. around how things should be run. So for the inclusiveness, the welcoming, the safety, that's a matter of just having the right people, the right adults, the right coaches, with the right mindset, in the right spots to help everybody be part of the sport. As far as the accessibility, to me, a big part of accessibility, at least in Canada, and I would imagine this is to a degree an issue in the U.S. and other parts of the world too, but hockey is an incredibly expensive sport. And I would like to, I don't know what we can do. I'm not sure there's an easy, simple answer, but there has to be something to be done about the cost, because there's a lot of people that I know that really struggle with the cost to upkeep to have their kids play hockey. Mostly it's the huge, most popular sport in the country. But it's very expensive. I mean, obviously the ice, the fact that it's played on ice instead of a field, well, ice is a lot more, expensive to operate all these rinks. So that's a big cost. The amount of equipment that's required, is way more than most sports. To play soccer, you throw on a pair of cleats and shin pads and a pair of shorts and you go. Like it's a lot cheaper, right? It's a lot easier for municipalities to operate a soccer field than it is a hockey rink. Like, there's just the nature of how it's played. I understand that, but I would just like to see something done. I know there is a few programs out there to help families to some degree, but it's getting to the point that to play at a high level and to have a chance for your kid, if they're going to have any chance at all to play the high levels or make the NHL or the lower level pros like the AHL or even major junior, like, you need to have some pretty deep pockets. And if it's almost becoming a sport of the rich. And, I've been involved around the sport my entire life. I've seen firsthand, and I've seen the struggles. And I'd like to see something done about that. I don't know what the answer is, but when I see Bauer say the sport needs to be accessible, I completely agree that that's a big challenge. And I don't know what Hockey Canada is going to do about that, but I like to see them have something. Like, the brain trust of the country needs to get together and figure out a way to make it more affordable for a lot more people to have access to this great sport, and see where things can go from there. But that's all your news and notes for now. So let me know your thoughts on all the signings, especially in the other news we discussed here today. We'll be back later with another video with some more news and trade rumors from around the NHL. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around so you don't miss anything, and I'll catch you next time.